My mom has cancer. To cover her surgery, I drained our family's savings and went deep into debt. To pay it all back, I had to take a part-time job as a male model at a bar. That's where I met a wealthy older woman, so gentle and thoughtful. I thought she would be my salvation, my guardian angel. I never imagined that beneath her warm facade was a bottomless pit of cruelty and madness. What are you standing there gawking for? Diana Hayes paused, her hand on the door, and shot a cool glance back at me. Get in. I awkwardly pulled my cheap, $20 cotton jacket tighter around myself. After a moment's hesitation, I followed her into the exquisitely decorated, high-end villa. Do you know why I brought you here? Diana changed her shoes, then sank into the sofa, her appraising gaze sweeping over me. I gripped the hem of my shirt, my heart pounding, but I forced myself to answer calmly. I do, Ms. Hayes. Good. Diana lifted her chin, saying nothing more. The truth is, we'd only known each other for 5 days, tops. She was always another guy's client, but he called in sick that day, so the job of waiting on her fell to me. I worked part-time at a private club, the kind of place where everyone was either rich or powerful. Sometimes a casual tip from one of them was more than I made in 2 weeks. That's why, even though I knew exactly what Diana wanted when she asked me to come home with her, I couldn't say no. I needed the money, desperately. For money, I'd do anything. After bracing myself, I took a deep breath, walked over to Diana, and knelt on the carpet before her, gently brushing my cheek against her palm. Ma'am, I don't know what to do, I said, my voice trembling. I'd never been with anyone before. I'd literally had to Google how to please a woman like her on the car ride over. I'd only skimmed the basics, something about being obedient and submissive, but it was easier said than done. I shakily looked up at the imposing woman in front of me, a sudden urge to run screaming through my mind. Could I really go through with this? Diana's features were stunning. From her arched eyebrows to the curve of her lips, every part of her seemed divinely crafted. She was tall, with flawless pale skin, the very definition of a femme fatale who could make your heart stop with a single glance. She looked down at me now, her eyes half-lidded. The corners were faintly flushed, but combined with her powerful aura, it gave her beauty a dangerous edge. She did not look like an easy person to please. This, just as I'd feared, she frowned. You don't even know how to kiss? Ido, imambad. Not daring to say more, I glanced at her face before cautiously pressing a light kiss to the corner of her mouth. Useless. You can't even do that right. To my surprise, she seemed even angrier. She gave me an impatient shove, stood up, and stalked into her bedroom without a backward glance, leaving me squatting there, completely lost. I knew from the start that Diana came to the club to hunt. The one she was after was my co-worker, Leo Miller. The manager told me she'd been coming in for 2 months straight, requesting only him. But Leo was proud, arrogant even. He felt her advances were demeaning and never gave her the time of day. By sheer coincidence, the day Diana planned to make her move, he called in sick. So the whole setup, the expensive gifts, all of it fell into my lap as the substitute. Then tonight, Diana came in like always, and for some reason, she and Leo got into a huge fight. Right after, she turned and asked me, right in front of him, if I wanted to go home with her. In the heat of the moment, I just said yes. Looking back now at Leo's thunderous expression and Diana's mocking tone, it's obvious I was just a pawn in their game. But when you're desperate for cash, who has time to worry about dignity? Once I accepted that, I smoothed the expression on my face, walked to Diana's bedroom door, and knocked softly. Come in. At her command, I pushed the door open and stepped inside. She had just showered and was sitting languidly at the foot of the bed. She turned slowly as I entered. Ready to try again? Yes, I am. I swallowed hard and walked stiffly toward her. This time, I didn't hesitate. I put my arms around her waist and kissed her. My technique was probably awful, but at least she didn't push me away this time, just let out a soft sound. That was a good sign. Emboldened, a surge of adrenaline hit me, and I instinctively pulled her closer. The next day at work, I could feel it. Everyone was looking at me funny. Before I could even ask why, my friend will pull me into the locker room. Frank, man, maybe you should just call in sick today, he whispered. What's wrong? I was clueless. Is the manager in a bad mood? It wouldn't be the first time. He once fired a few guys on the spot for smoking in the bathroom on their shift. He stayed pissed off for 2 weeks after that, yelling at us over everything. It made sense, though. The clientele here was powerful. An employee screw-up could cause problems that firing someone couldn't fix. Well, just gave me a weird look. You left with Ms. Hayes last night, didn't you? I hesitated, then nodded. Yeah. A lot of people saw us leave. There was no point in denying it. That's it then. Everyone knows she's after Leo. They've been doing this whole will the won't they thing for ages. You stepping in the middle of that? Of course he's going to have it out for you. We'll lay it all out. It's probably fine for now, but if he actually wins her over, you're going to be the first one he gets rid of. The second he finished speaking, the locker room door flew open, kicked from the other side, and there stood Leo himself, his face a mask of fury, glaring right at me. Gossiping in here instead of working? You trying to get fired? Do your job, or get the hell out. His eyes flickered meaningfully to my neck. And wipe that look off your face. It's disgusting. He finished with a contemptuous laugh. Then again, what can I expect from a spineless suck-up who only thinks about kissing rich women's asses? You wouldn't know what it means to have a backbone. His words were a clear jab, but I didn't let them get to me. I thought about the stack of cash Diana had given me that morning, enough to pay for 2 rounds of my mom's treatment. A few insults were nothing compared to that. I closed my eyes for a second, then forced a smile. My bad. I pulled Will in here to go over the shift change. If the manager docks anyone's pay, tell him to take it for mine. How generous of you, Leo sneered before turning and leaving. I didn't talk with Will any longer either. I just changed into my uniform and went back to my station. But throughout the shift, I could feel Leo targeting me. Like when I was delivering drinks, he'd be at the bar 1 second, and the next he'd walk right into me, accidentally bumping my shoulder and making me spill everything. Or when I was cleaning a booth after the guests left, he'd find some excuse to mess with me and slow me down. After a few times, I finally snapped. Leo, what the hell is your problem? He shot me a cold look. Just supervising. See all these sunflower seed shells on the floor? Get sweeping. I gripped the broom handle, about to point out that he was the one who'd thrown them there, when I heard a familiar voice behind me. What's going on here? Diana was leaning against the doorframe, arms crossed. Diana, I started, my face lighting up, but Leo cut me off, stepping right in front of her. What are you doing here? I thought you had a business trip today. I came to see you, of course. Diana acted like I wasn't even there, linking her arm through Leo's as they walked out together. I could faintly hear her say to him, "What's this? So concerned about me today after our fight yesterday. Are you jealous? Or just feeling threatened?" She leaned her head on his shoulder with a radiant smile. "Don't worry. You'll always be my favorite. So, have you made up your mind about coming home with me?" Their voices faded as they walked away, and it took me a moment to snap out of my daze. Of course, her target had always been Leo. Why would she ever come here for me? I gave a bitter laugh. She must have heard what happened and rushed over to comfort him. I was just a pawn she used to make him jealous. I was nothing. Even so, a sharp, bitter feeling spread through my chest. I didn't see Diana after that day. The only news I got came from Will, who would mention things in passing. It was always about Diana taking Leo on some lavish date, or how much money she'd just spent on him. All I heard were rumors about how inseparable they were. I tried to ignore it all, working myself to the bone during my shifts and calling my mom whenever I had a free moment. "I'm taking care of myself, Mom. You just listen to the doctors and focus on your treatment. Don't worry about the money. I'll figure it out." During my break, I grabbed some food and hid in the stairwell to FaceTime my mom while I ate. Seeing the colors slowly return to her cheeks made every bit of my struggle feel worthwhile. We chatted a bit more, but it was getting late, so I told her to get some rest, and despite her wanting to talk more, I ended the call. Just as I stood up, a loud crash echoed from the hallway. I peeked out and saw Leo and Diana arguing. "Who needs your damn money?" Leo yelled, kicking a fire extinguisher across the floor. "I'm not some pretty boy like Frank. I'd rather beg on the street than take your condescending charity." With that, he shoved Diana aside and stormed up the stairs. He shot me a venomous glare as he passed. "Pathetic," he spat. After he was gone, the hallway fell silent again. Diana looked up at me, but the dim light made it hard to see her expression. "I wasn't trying to eavesdrop," I said immediately. "I didn't know you were here." It was so awkward walking in on their fight that apologizing was my first instinct. "What are you doing here?" Her voice was unnervingly calm for someone who'd just been in a screaming match. "Aren't you still on the clock?" "I'm on the early shift. I can leave after my break," I explained. "I was just on the phone with my mom. I didn't hear anything." The words were barely out of my mouth before I regretted them. It was a dead giveaway. Diana nodded slowly. Then her eyes narrowed as she studied me. "Are you coming home with me tonight?" she asked. I froze for a second before snapping back to reality. "Igriegagis, can you wait for me? I just need to change out of my uniform." "Fine." Her expression remained neutral as she waved a dismissive hand. "I'll be in the car." I assumed she'd take me back to her villa, like before. Instead, she drove toward a 5-star hotel downtown. We went up to the presidential suite on the top floor, and the moment we were inside, she shoved me into a dark room. "I'm not in a good mood tonight," she said, leaving the lights off. "Let's try something different." She produced a pair of handcuffs from somewhere and snapped them onto my wrists. I swallowed nervously. "Try what?" Diana's voice was low and languid, but laced with pure mockery. A game that will make me happy, of course. She tilted my chin up, forcing me to meet her gaze in the dark. You still have the right to say no. She stared at me, her face unreadable, but the pressure in the room was immense. A shiver ran through me, but I quickly steadied myself. I trust you won't hurt me, I said, my voice firmer than I felt. Huh? She let out a short, sharp laugh. Saying nothing more, she released my chin and walked into the bathroom. Don't regret it, then. Go take a shower in the other bathroom, and then come back here. I never knew that behind Diana's gentle facade was such bottomless cruelty and madness. By the end, I'd lost count of the lashes from the whip, lost count of how many times I'd knelt on the floor and barked like a dog. I could only sense that she still wasn't satisfied, that she was still venting her frustrations on me. My head was bowed, my body still reeling, but I managed to beg for mercy. Diana, please, it hurts. The last lash had caught my face, leaving a thin, stinging welt. It wasn't a deep cut, but the burning pain made me whimper. You'll get used to it, she cooed, leaning down to gently stroke my cheek, her eyes suddenly soft. I'll try to be gentler. The hidden meaning in her words made my face burn. I clenched my jaw and tried to push myself up. Are you feeling any better now? She nodded dismissively. Your name is Frank, right? Yes. I hear you're in desperate need of money. So, do you want to stay by my side? A smile played on her lips. An obedient little puppy like you is hard to find. My body went rigid. As I tried to figure out how to respond, she placed a finger on my lips. I did some checking. You're working at that club because your mother is sick. If you agree to my offer, I can get her the best medical team in the country. I was too stunned to move or speak. Diana didn't push, just waited patiently for my answer. She seemed to know I had no choice but to say yes. And she was right. Just as I felt her patience wearing thin, I slowly nodded. I agree. Good puppy. Her laugh from above sounded mocking. But at that point, I had no shame left to lose. Diana was true to her word. The very next day, she had people arrange my mother's transfer to a top hospital and paid for 3 years of her medical expenses up front. It meant that for the next 3 years, I belonged to Diana Hayes. The news spread fast. The moment Leo heard, he hunted me down. Frank, you've really hit rock bottom, he sneered. I gave him a cool look, refusing to back down. What's the matter? Upset that she chose me over you in the end? You're the one with all the pride, always looking down on me. So why are you coming to me to vent? You can't have it both ways, thinking you're above it all, while expecting everyone to still want you. I couldn't deny that Leo was handsome enough to turn heads, which was why he was so popular with the clients. Plenty of women, just like Diana, came to the club specifically for him. But he was arrogant, convinced that they were all desperate for him. He thought that playing hard to get just made him seem more special. I must have hit a nerve because he flew into a rage, strode forward, and punched me square in the nose. You're full of shit. You think I'm a cheap whore like you? What? You feel tough now that you've got a sugar mama paying your bills. Frank, you're nothing but a little bitch, just spreading your legs for anyone with money. Leo's words were cut short, as someone grabbed his raised fist from behind. It was Diana. I don't know how long she'd been standing there, or how much she'd heard. Leo panicked, looking at her guiltily. What are you doing here? If I hadn't come, I would have missed this wonderful show, Diana said, casually releasing his wrist. She walked over to me, pulled a silk handkerchief from her purse, and began gently dabbing the blood from my face, the picture of tenderness. Leo, you should know better than to mess with someone's property. You've been bullying my little puppy. Tell me, how should I punish you for that? No, it's not like that, Leo stammered, freezing under her icy stare. I was just warning him not to get a big head. A big head. Diana raised an eyebrow. I gave you a choice, didn't I? That pride you value so much is worthless to me. Since you turned me down again and again, I can't be expected to keep chasing you. She paused, her eyes sweeping over him with utter contempt. You're not worth the effort. Leo left, humiliated and furious. The moment he was gone, Diana's face reverted to its usual cold mask. If he bothers you again, you tell me. Okay. I answered quietly, my head bowed. She grunted in acknowledgement, gave me a brief glance, and then she too was gone. I knew her whole performance was for Leo's benefit. She was just using me to crush his pride and break that arrogance of his. Diana was nowhere near as gentle as she sometimes appeared. The side of her I'd seen those 2 nights, that was the real her. I shook my head, pushing the thoughts away. All I had to do was play the part she wanted me to play. Who she actually liked, or what she really wanted, had nothing to do with me. Once I got busy with work, time flew. But half an hour before my shift ended, Leo showed up again, this time with the manager in tow. Frank, the manager said, starting tomorrow, you don't need to come in anymore. My eyes widened in shock. Why? Was there a complaint? I turned to look at Leo, who had a smug smirk on his face, as if to say, "See? I told you I'd get you." I clenched my fists and took a deep breath. "If I haven't broken any rules, you can't just fire me without a reason," I said to the manager. "Or are you just doing this because Leo told you to? The owner himself hired me for this job. If I'm being fired, I should hear it from him." "Quite the smart mouth," the manager snorted. "Leo was right. Keeping you around is just asking for trouble with the clients. And don't look at me like that. The order came from the owner himself. If you're smart, you'll take this month's pay and go quietly. Otherwise, the threat was clear." I clenched my fists, staring at Leo's triumphant face. For a split second, I wanted nothing more than to punch him, but I couldn't. He must have found someone powerful to back him up if he could get the owner to fire me just like that. If I gave in to the impulse and hit him, he could probably make my life in this city impossible. Even though Diana was helping my mom, I knew our arrangement was fragile. I couldn't risk it, but I underestimated him. Leo didn't just want me to lose my job at the club. After I was fired from 3 other jobs in a row, all for the same vague reason, I knew I couldn't ignore it any longer. When I finally found Leo, he was draped over a man in his 50s, feeding him a drink with a sickeningly sweet smile. I recognized the man. He was the manager's uncle, a mining tycoon who owned half of West Virginia. So this was Leo's new patron. That explained why the manager was on his side and how he had the nerve to string Diana along while constantly rejecting her. I gripped the door handle, but instead of bursting in, I pulled out my phone. I carefully silenced it and took several pictures and a short video of the two of them on the couch. I sent the files to Diana via iMessage and then left the club. I had just walked to my door when my phone rang. It was her. "Where did you get these photos?" "At the club. Just now." "I see. You did well. I'll give you a reward when I'm done with this," Diana replied coolly. I couldn't read her tone, couldn't tell how she felt about Leo. All that mattered to me was that she wouldn't let him get away with this. After hanging up, I lay in bed, my mind racing. I didn't have much of an education. Most jobs I could get were manual labor. If Leo was determined to keep me blacklisted, I was screwed. My only hope was that Diana would deal with this problem fast. Late that night, I was woken from a deep sleep by my phone ringing. "Where are you?" It was Diana, her voice as flat as ever, but I could somehow tell she was in a bad mood. I shot straight up in bed. "I'm home. Have you been drinking? Do you need me to come get you?" "No, just take a cab to my house." Then, she added something she rarely said. "I'm waiting for you." "Okay, I'm on my way." The words were barely out of my mouth before I was in the bathroom, splashing water on my face. I rushed as fast as I could, and an hour and a half later, I was standing in front of her familiar villa. The door was unlocked and the lights were off. I crept inside, looking around, and finally spotted her on the second-floor balcony, drinking alone in the dark. "Diana, are you upset?" I knelt in front of her and nuzzled her hand like a pet. "Is it because of the photos?" "I'm sorry. I just didn't want you to be deceived by him." Before I could finish, she pressed a finger to my lips. "Shoo." She seemed amused by my frantic apology, the corners of her eyes crinkling. Her smile eased my nerves, but then she spoke again. "What do you want as a reward?" "What?" I was confused. "A reward for what?" "Yes, my good puppy did a very good thing. Don't you want a reward?" Her voice was a low, sexy purr. I never thought I could hide my motives from her, but I was surprised she didn't seem to care. I glanced at her face, and seeing she truly wasn't angry, I slowly shook my head. "I don't need a reward. I sent you those photos for my own selfish reasons. I'm just grateful you're not mad at me." I couldn't possibly ask for anything more. After a long silence, she suddenly asked, "Do you know why I was interested in Leo in the first place? Because he's handsome? Good at charming you." I guessed. Wrong. A sarcastic smile touched her lips. "It was because he thought he was so much better than everyone else. Wallowing in the filth, but trying to pretend he was pure. I thought it would be so interesting to break that pride of his, to train him into an obedient pet." As she spoke, she traced a finger over my lips. "But now, I think you might be much more interesting." That wasn't a hint, it was a declaration. I stayed quiet for a long time, and she didn't press me. Finally, when my legs were completely numb from kneeling, I looked up at her. "I understand, Diana. I'll be good." Her eyes narrowed, her gaze turning predatory, so cold it chilled me to the bone. "Good puppy," she whispered. "Carry me to bed." After our agreement, I spent most of Diana's free time with her. "I'm taking you somewhere nice today," she said afterward, exhaling a thin stream of smoke. She crossed her legs, her expression turning languid and indifferent, a complete 180 from the person who had just been whispering sweet nothings to me moments before. I straightened my clothes and sat up. "Where are we going?" "You'll see," she said, leaning in to pat my cheek before disappearing into the bathroom. Diana was a bit of a neat freak, so by the time she emerged from her shower, I'd already tidied the room and taken a quick shower myself in the downstairs guest bathroom. As I expected, she noticed, raising an eyebrow in approval. She patted my head, then pulled a credit card from her purse and slipped it into my pocket. A little reward for my hard-working puppy. Thank you, I said with a smile. Diana decided to drive herself, and we headed to a hot spring resort on the outskirts of the city. The moment we stepped out of the car, we ran right into Leo. He wasn't alone. He was with a woman about Diana's age who was dressed so gaudily it hurt to look at her, like she was trying to wear her entire jewelry box at once. Wasn't she afraid of getting mugged? I didn't get it, but I couldn't help staring. Like what you see. Diana's voice in my ear made me jump. I quickly shook my head. No, I was just wondering who she is. Diana glanced over at them. That's Chloe Vance, the little princess of the Vance family. I'd advise you not to get too curious. Her brothers are not people you want to cross. I nodded quickly, promising I'd stay far away from her. Still, I couldn't help but wonder how Leo had managed to get his claws into someone like that. There's going to be a good show later, Diana said, as if reading my mind. We'll just watch from a distance. She chuckled, then took my hand and led me to our reserved suite. I never would have imagined that Diana's good show would involve Chloe Vance's brothers storming their room with a team of bodyguards. I watched as two huge men dragged Leo out and threw him onto the floor like a bag of trash, right at my feet. Well, fancy seeing you here, I said with a smile and a little wave. Frank, Leo's eyes were bloodshot as he glared at me, his teeth clenched. You did this, didn't you? You couldn't stand to see me doing well, so you pulled this dirty trick. Hey, don't go blaming the first person you see. I didn't do anything, I said, holding up my hands in mock terror. This is about your own bad behavior. It has nothing to do with me. He was so furious, he could only point at me and sputter, unable to form a complete sentence. I couldn't resist one last jab. It looks like you're in a tough spot. Need to borrow a towel? I gave him a once-over. I had to admit that Chloe Vance wasn't very picky if she was willing to sleep with someone in his shape. You must be enjoying this, seeing me humiliated, Leo said, his fists clenched. All because that woman Diana decided she wanted you. You have no idea what a psycho she is. You're a man. Have you no shame? It's disgusting. Diana had stepped out to take a call 10 minutes ago. Otherwise, I doubt Leo would have the guts to say this to my face. Me, disgusting? And you think you're any better? I saw a shadow move past the doorway out of the corner of my eye, and I suddenly felt a surge of confidence. At least I'm clean. You, on the other hand, should I list all the clients I've seen you go home with? Oh, and I almost forgot. Back when Diana was pursuing you, you bragged to the manager about how easy it would be to trick a dumb rich woman like her. I remember your exact words. A woman like that is obviously desperate for affection. Once I got her, she'll be eating out of the palm of my hand like a dog. She'll do anything I say. I mimicked his arrogant tone perfectly, ignoring the way his face darkened with every word. Frank, Leo lunged for my throat, but I was quick enough to dodge him. Hit a nerve, didn't I? Just admit it, Leo. Your hypocrisy makes you look 1,000 times cheaper than I ever could. I sneered. For once, I was the one with the power, and I couldn't stop myself from finally saying everything I'd been holding back for so long. But no matter how angry Leo got, he wasn't stupid. He calmed down quickly. He knew he couldn't afford to cross the Vance family. Chloe's brothers wouldn't let him off easy. He needed to find a powerful ally. Of all the people he knew, only two were on the same level as the Vances, Diana and the mining tycoon. But after the photo incident, Diana had used her influence to warn the tycoon away from him. That left him with only one option. After a moment's thought, Leo's entire demeanor changed. He clutched his chest, looking wounded. The truth is, I was tricked, he said weakly. Frank, you know me. I never wanted to sell myself. It was all just an act. You know how tough this business is. If I didn't play the game, the manager would have fired me ages ago. The second his expression changed, I was on my guard, expecting him to try something. I never expected him to say that. It completely threw me off. What was this? Was he playing the victim? But that didn't make sense. If he was putting on an act, it should be for Diana. Had he somehow sensed she was just outside the door, even with his back to it? Before I could make sense of it, Leo continued. Frank, I was wrong before. I shouldn't have said those things to you. I was just blinded by jealousy. I was always afraid you were going to take everything from me, so I lashed out. I'm sorry. I promise it won't happen again. I can even help you find a new job. All you have to do is put in a good word for me with Diana. Let her know my side of the story. I'm not asking her to forgive me, just to meet with me one more time. So that was his real goal. It hit me then. He knew that if he just showed up, Diana wouldn't give him the time of day. This was his roundabout way of getting to her. But his plan had one major flaw. What side of the story is that? I'd love to hear it. Diana stepped out from the doorway and walked over to Leo, her arms crossed, her eyes like ice. The color drained from Leo's face. He stammered for a moment, unable to come up with a single excuse. After all, he'd done everything willingly. He really had looked down on her. Even if he regretted it now, he couldn't just invent a plausible lie on the spot. "Cat got your tongue?" Diana said coolly. "Need me to help you think of an excuse?" Leo seemed surprised by her offer, and for a second, he looked hopeful, as if he thought she might actually forgive him. He started to smile and reach for her hand, but then she added with a cold laugh, "You didn't really think I was the dumb rich woman you described, did you?" Her words shattered his last shred of hope. He stared at her in disbelief. "I didn't. I was just—" "Oh, stop it. Drop the act," Diana sneered, patting his cheek. "How do you think the Vance brothers found you here today? Did you really think Chloe was actually interested in you?" "What do you mean?" "I mean, this was all a setup." "My setup," Diana said with a shrug, offering him a condescending explanation. "You were so proud of being above my dirty money. I just wanted to show you what money can really do. It's not all-powerful, but it's powerful enough to make you run around in circles like a trained dog." With that, she completely ignored him and beckoned to me. "Come on, I'll take you to dinner." "Okay, Diana." Before we left, I glanced back at Leo. He was still standing there, stunned, his head bowed. I had a feeling that even backed into a corner like this, he wouldn't give up easily, but I had seriously underestimated the power of the wealthy. Before Leo could even begin to plot his revenge, his plans were snuffed out. I only found out when Diana casually mentioned over dinner one night that she'd simply had a word with the Vance family about Leo's true character. That was all it took. The Vance brothers had already arranged to have him relocated out of the country. Whether he survived long after that was anyone's guess. My jaw dropped. It took me a moment to recover. Is that how rich people solve problems? Just that easily? It was nothing like what you see in the movies, where the villain keeps popping up over and over, and the hero has a dozen chances to get rid of them, but never does. They always wait until the last possible second, when the hero finally snaps and saves the day for a forced happy ending. "You watch too much TV," Diana said, tapping me on the head. "Do you really think people who run multinational corporations are stupid? They let things slide because it's amusing for a while. But even watching a bug try to jump on you gets boring eventually." I nodded, sort of understanding. I stopped thinking about what happened to Leo. Knowing the Van Cess had people looking after him was enough. "Your mother is being discharged today, isn't she? You need to go pick her up. Finish your food." Seeing my dazed expression, Diana sighed, probably thinking I was still stuck on Leo. "All right, I'll eat now," I said, quickly shoveling food in my mouth. "Slow down. I'll have the driver take a shortcut. Don't choke." "Okay, thank you, Diana." I'd been with Diana for a few months now, and I had to admit, in our day-to-day life, she treated me incredibly well. She gave me anything I wanted and always respected my space. If this was what Leo called hitting rock bottom, then it was a kind of rock bottom most people could only dream of. Aside from her possessiveness, her strange kinks, and her unpredictable moods, she was the perfect patron. I silently scoffed at Leo's memory, then looked up at Diana. "Weren't you supposed to go to your family's estate today? I could just grab a cab to the hospital. You've already done so much for me. You don't need to worry about something like this." "You're coming with me," she said flatly. "What?" I asked, confused. "I told my grandfather I was bringing you home. It's time he met you." She offered no further explanation. So I went to the hospital with a knot in my stomach, picked up my mom, and got her settled back at home. We barely had time to talk before I was back in the car with Diana, my anxiety growing with every mile we drove toward the Hayes family estate. When we arrived, Diana greeted a man and woman on the sofa who I assumed were her parents, then led me straight out to the garden. Grandfather, I brought him. An old man in a wheelchair, drinking tea in the sun, turned at the sound of her voice. His eyes landed on me, and I froze, not knowing what to do with my hands. "So this is the boy?" he asked. His gaze was powerful, and even though he was looking up at me, I felt like he was seeing right through me. My face flushed, and I stammered, "Hello, sir. My name is Frank." I wasn't sure what to say about my relationship with Diana, but I figured he must already know. Just as I thought, his brow furrowed. "Stop mumbling. Are you ashamed of what you are?" I immediately straightened my posture, about to speak, but Diana cut in. "Grandfather." Her interruption seemed to break his stern facade. He looked away awkwardly. "This is the one you chose after all that searching? He doesn't look like much." Their conversation left me completely lost. What did he mean, the one Diana chose? "Yes," Diana said, ruffling my hair. "He's a bit soft, but that just means he's obedient. Fine. I've seen him. The rest is up to you," the old man said, waving us away dismissively. "We'll go then. I'll come back for dinner another day. Grandfather, Diana said, completely unfazed. She then pulled me, still utterly confused, back to the car. The meeting lasted less than 30 minutes, but it completely fried my brain. I couldn't make sense of any of it. Finally, Diana must have taken pity on me because she explained, I need a husband who is willing to marry into my family. Or, to be more precise, the Hayes family needs a son-in-law with a clean background and no powerful connections of his own. You happen to fit my requirements perfectly. I was completely floored. Me? But I'm not. I had your background checked the first day we met. Besides your mother, you have no other family, and you've never been in any other relationships. You're a blank slate. Then, as if reading my mind, she added, the Hayes family doesn't need a powerful man. To be blunt, there are very few men in my generation who are my equal. All I need is a husband who is sufficiently obedient. Besides, my research shows how much you care for your mother. With her as leverage, I'm not worried about you causing any trouble. I opened my mouth to speak several times, but no words came out. So this was her plan all along? Her words were harsh, but I wasn't even offended by being called spineless. After all, a family like the Hayes was so far above my station I could work my entire life and never come close. You have to be realistic. I just never imagined she would actually want to marry me. Even if it meant I was just a trophy husband, I was still the one getting the better end of the deal. Diana, can I ask why it's me? With her resources, she could easily find someone more obedient, more handsome, more anything than me. It wasn't that I had low self-esteem. It was just that the offer was so unbelievably good it felt like a dream. Because you satisfy me. In every way, she said, smiling as she playfully pinched my earlobe, her eyes glinting with a familiar, suggestive light. Good puppy. A jolt went through me. I won't disappoint you, Diana. They say youth is wasted on the young, who chase after sweet nothings instead of real opportunity. Meeting a woman like Diana was a dream come true for most people. To hesitate for even a second would be an insult to the incredible future she was offering me. Well then, my good puppy, aren't you going to carry me to the bedroom? Diana leaned back lazily against the sofa and crooked a finger at me. I obediently knelt before her and gently lifted her into my arms. As you command, my master.